Hey, and welcome back to the channel. We are on day 4 of our 21-day journey, Come As You Are. It's a journey back to joy. And today we are on day 4, and we are talking about boldness, what that looks like, and how we approach the throne given what we've talked about already, which was that we come with all our stuff, we come burdened, we find out who we are. So we talked about our identity, and then we talked about who God is. And so day 4, going into boldness, is saying, okay, with all of that in mind, how do we approach the throne? And how do we approach the throne? Really, just keeping it that simple. And we have 2 passages that we're going to look through today. One is Hebrews, that I'm sure you're familiar with. And then the other one is in the Gospel of Mary. Now, the difference between the two, I'd say, is the perspective. So Hebrews comes to us from a perspective of the message coming from above, and Mary's message comes from more alongside. And you'll see what I mean when we get into it. So, without further ado, let's start in Hebrews. Hebrews 4:14 through 16. Having then a great high priest who's passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God, let's hold tightly to our confession. For we don't have a high priest who can't be touched with the feeling of our infirmities, but one who has been in all points tempted like we are, yet without sin. Let's therefore draw near with boldness to the throne of grace, that we may receive mercy and may find grace for help in time of need. Now we have the Gospel of Mary, 9:12 through 20. Then Mary arose and greeted them all. She said to her brothers and sisters, "Don't weep and grieve, or let your hearts be divided, because his grace will be with you all and will protect you. Rather, we should praise his greatness, because he's prepared us and made us authentic people." All right, so in Hebrews, I think for this passage in particular, I think it makes sense to kind of talk about what the word boldness means. So this word boldness, boldness, comes from the Greek word freesia, which means like to truly speak, no holds barred, no tiptoeing, no just putting it all out there. So truly coming with your full word in your full power. So that's the type of boldness that they're talking about in this Hebrews reference here. And so we're told to come boldly. We're told that we have the grace. And this feels like a command from above. So think of it as authority telling us to come boldly before the throne. And then we take our own authority. We take that knowing who we are, knowing what our identity is, and we speak boldly back. So it's like we're being empowered to come boldly, and we come boldly, and then we're empowered to come back boldly. So it's like, you know who you are, so you know you can approach in this way. You know who you are, so you know you can approach in this way. And it just goes, and that's the rhythm. And it's also important to note that this was a pretty popular thought at the time anyhow. Stoicism was already talking about inner stillness and boldness. And I'll get into that here with the Gospel of Mary. So with the Gospel of Mary, we're hearing the same message, but in a different way. So let me explain why. To set the stage for what's happening in the Gospel of Mary, this is after Jesus has been crucified, after Jesus has appeared to the disciples, given them the charge to go and spread the gospel, and then he's left. And this is the final departure, right? And so in this scene, the disciples, which Mary was very clear, men and women, the disciples were upset. And here's another thing. They weren't just upset, they were afraid. They were in fear. They've just been given a charge to go and preach and teach. They've given their lives to this mission, watch their leader get crucified for the mission. Now they're being told to go out and do the mission, and they're afraid, let's be honest. And so Mary steps in and she says, let your hearts not be afraid. And don't be, and basically have an undivided heart. And this is where having the undivided heart comes into play with the times, the current times, or the times that were happening then. Because it was already a belief that boldness, it came from an inner steadiness. And that inner steadiness had nothing to do with what was going on the external. Your inner steadiness was how you maintained your composure. It basically was part of the thought that says you can't control everything that's going on outside of you. You can control how you respond to it. So when I put these verses together, these passages together side by side, this is what I notice. What I notice is that Hebrews feels like the individual directive when you are approaching and you're in a position to do that. And when I say in a position to do that, I mean you're feeling it. You feel like you can come boldly before the throne. And the perspective that Mary brings to it is what happens when you're in the room and you're not the one who has the boldness. I love the way that this brings the relational side of it in, because haven't you had that happen before where you want to have the most confidence or you want to feel the most bold in that moment and you just don't. But you do have someone with you who can either intercede on your behalf or who can remind you of who you are so that you can go boldly before the throne. This is two sides of the exact same coin. The coin is boldness. One is you, the other one is us. And both of them have their rightful place. Sometimes it is us doing this, and sometimes it is someone else on our behalf who's helping us out. And what Mary's gospel does, it just takes it a little bit further. It shows us how we show up for each other. It shows us how we can show up for each other. And it shows us that the person showing up with the boldness doesn't always have to be you. That's the beauty of that too. And that's the beauty of relationship and connection. So we're going to go ahead and bring this into our body now with our embodiment practice. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video because I need to stand up for this one. For today's practice, I'm going to ask you to stand up with your feet about hip-width distance apart, your arms at your sides. Take a slight breath in. Fully release. Now take a deep breath in and just open your chest a little bit. Not a big arch to your back, just a little bit of an opening. Feel into the four corners of your feet, even if you're wearing shoes. Today's practice is a grounding practice. This is similar to what Mary did for the disciples over 2,000 years ago. Sometimes boldness comes through knowing that you're firmly planted and remembering that. So don't let your heart be divided in this moment. You're firmly planted and grounded. So today's takeaway: you are allowed to come boldly before the throne at all times. You can come boldly before the throne as an individual. You can be in the room with someone whose boldness is helping to remind you of who you are. Just know that throughout this journey, the invitation is the same: to come as you are. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on day 5. Take care.